Chelsea Football Club have won a game. Nicholas Jackson has scored a goal, and silverware, at least when it comes to the League Cup, is still very much on the table, in my opinion, this season. People, what's happening? Welcome back to the Joey Knight podcast. If you are new around here, at the end of this video, if you like the content and you want to see more from myself, please do me a massive favour and hit the subscribe button. And in this video, I'm going to give my review of last night's game against Brighton in the League Cup. Right, let's have a little dive into last night's game, and as you can see on screen now, here is how we lined up. And barring the fact that we started Marc Cucurella as a makeshift right back, my initial reaction was a good one when I saw this lineup. I wanted us to go strong in this competition, and Mauricio Pochettino did so. Anyone that watches my stuff will know that I will always be very happy if I look at a lineup and see Ben Chilwell at left back, Levi Colwill at left centre-back, Ian Maatsen anywhere on that pitch, and obviously Cole Palmer in the 10, which is a player and an entry into the lineup that I have been calling for a long time. However, I did just touch on Cucurella there, and obviously what I did say, and the key word was initial reaction. I sort of looked at that and thought, what's Cucurella doing at right back? You know, Disasi played at right back for Monaco. Maybe we could have seen him there. But actually, I thought Cucurella did a really, really good job there last night. So big up Cucurella on that one. Obviously, yeah, as I say, my initial reaction was a little bit weird because, you know, if you class Ian Maatsen as a left back, which a lot of people do because he played there for Burnley, then when we look at that lineup last night, you're starting with 3 left backs on the pitch. I obviously don't really class Ian Maatsen as a left back. I think he's better further up the pitch as a more attacking player. But when it comes to Marc Cucurella, you've got to give him his props, man. That was the best performance I've seen from him in a Chelsea shirt. And I was saying before, wasn't I, on the podcast, that sometimes you'll stumble upon a sort of recipe for success. Injuries, suspensions will force you to play players maybe in positions that we don't associate them with, and then it just sort of works for them. So I think as a makeshift right back, Cucurella did a really good job, actually. Now, do I think that Malo Gusto is a better right back than Cucurella? Yes. And you don't even need me to ask that question when it comes to Reece James. However, I do sort of think that being taken out of the limelight, yeah, and everyone's now got used to the fact that we paid a lot of money for Cucurella, and the expectations on him have been dragged right down because whereas, okay, Mykhailo Mudryk might not have come good straight away, we still sort of have a very high ceiling for him. Whereas I think everyone, including myself, and I'll be fair here, I won't make out that, you know, I think Cucurella is the best thing since sliced bread, but I think everyone's sort of had their expectations dragged down. We sort of believe or feel like we know what we're going to get from Cucurella now and know that maybe he's not a first-team starter for us. And because of that, maybe it's took a little bit of the weight off Cucurella's shoulders and he's ready to come back into that lineup now and put in consistently good performances, which isn't something we've seen from him since he came into the club. So, yeah, well done to Cucurella, and I'd have no objection to him starting the match against Fulham on Monday night now. Anyway, I'll get into a few more individual performances, but let's look at the match as a whole, yeah? It was a match that I was in attendance for, and I know it's a cliche, but this very much was a match of two halves. Obviously, Chelsea did what Chelsea always do at the minute. We come out, we start fast, but ultimately don't get a goal. And do you know what? Normally when we start fast, it tails off after like 15, 20 minutes. Yesterday, it tailed off after about 5 minutes, and then Brighton became pretty dominant. And when the half-time whistle came, I thought we were in for another painful night from Chelsea, to be fair, because Brighton just looked like the much stronger team. And for once, the opposition actually had more possession than us, you know. They looked threatening early on, and realistically, we could have found ourselves a goal or two down, but ultimately, we didn't. And the second half was so much better. We came out with more fight, but also we had a better balance, you know, because it wasn't gun-ho, like it wasn't rash. We were more composed, in my opinion, and obviously scored 2 legitimate goals. Everyone knows that second Jackson goal wasn't offside, but, you know, VAR is another conversation. What I would say is, if I could just scrap VAR altogether and every now and again one of those doesn't go in our favour, I probably would, because I don't like the way it slows the game down. But yeah, Jackson getting off the mark, really, really good for him, and I'm gutted now that he's going to miss the Fulham game, because I think that going into that match against Fulham could be the catalyst, you know. Now he's going to have the weight off of his shoulders. Obviously, he's bagged himself a goal, in my opinion, 2 legitimate goals, but one wasn't given. It does beg the question, who are we going to play in that number 9 position against Fulham? Because from what we've heard from Poch in his press conferences, Amanda Broha's not ready yet. You know, we've seen him come off the bench twice, but he hasn't been given the luxury of having too many minutes off the bench. Does he start with him? Do we bring in David Washington, who is obviously a player we haven't even seen on the pitch for us yet? Or I don't think we've seen him on the pitch for us yet. I don't think we have we? So do we bring him into a first match at Craven Cottage against a really good Fulham side who can pose us a lot of threats and, you know, could be able to nullify him slightly? But I don't know, really. It's a hard one. Obviously, we could start Raheem Sterling as a false nine. I know he played that system played in that system, I should say, for Man City at times. But, you know, Chelsea aren't Man City at the moment. So it's a bit of a head scratcher. Ultimately, I'm going to have to make my pick, and I will drop my match preview for that game. Another game that I'll be in attendance for. I'll drop it on Sunday, so it'll have a little bit of time to circulate, and you can watch that one. And I'll give my lineup for the game closer to the time. But let's get in to some of the player performances, starting off with Robert Sanchez. And as each match goes by, I sort of feel like I'm learning more and more about what sort of player, or what sort of goalkeeper, I should say, Robert Sanchez is. And my early sort of analysis on him, and this could change, is that Robert Sanchez is a great shot stopper. Really, really good shot stopper. He's not great with his feet. And maybe when I say with his feet, I just mean sort of his judgment. It's not that he's a bad passer, but a few stray passes, a couple of times he passed to Caicedo and put Caicedo under considerable amounts of pressure. And obviously he gave the ball away a couple of times last night, one of which was to João Pedro, which 9 out of 10 times you think João Pedro's scoring that chance. And then there was another time when he passed to Caicedo under pressure, I remember. Bearing in mind, I've had a few beers last night, so it's hard to remember everything. But he passed to, I think it was Caicedo or Ugachukwu. I think it's Caicedo under pressure. He gets dispossessed. Ansu Fati goes through. And obviously, Robert Sanchez makes a really, really good save in that position. But again, it sort of begs the questions, do we give him plaudits for making such a good save, one-on-one, when you definitely fancy Ansu Fati to score? Or do we say, you know, you sort of got yourself in this mess, so the least you can do is get yourself out of it? But yeah, I don't know. Maybe he still thought he was playing for Brighton, God knows. But I don't want to go hard on Robert Sanchez because I get it. Like, there's huge emphasis on having a goalkeeper that can play with his feet. You know, you look at the money that Man United have now spent on Onana. But I obviously made the argument before that I don't know whether Onana this season is going to save Man United more points than De Gea would. And obviously, last season we had Kepa. It is undeniable that Robert Sanchez is a better shot stopper than Kepa. I'm telling you now, yeah, some of them long-range efforts that Aston Villa had against us at Stamford Bridge on Sunday, if that was Kepa in goal, a lot of them are going in, or a fair few of them. So Robert Sanchez is an upgrade in that department, but obviously he needs to get better with his feet, with his judgment. For the most part so far, I'm happy with Robert Sanchez. Anyway, I'm going to try and rattle through a few here. Obviously, Cucurella I've touched on. Thought he was very good. Would not object to him starting against Fulham on Monday night. The centre-back pairing of Disasi and Levi Colwill, I think, looked good, albeit sort of a one in its very early sort of premature stages, and maybe we need to see a bit more of it. And I think the match against Fulham, all right, it's away at Craven Cottage, but that's a perfect match to see that in. I love Thiago Silva. I don't need to sit here and tell you like how much I rate and how much respect I have for the man. But I do think at some point there's going to be a changing of the guard, and maybe, just maybe, we're sort of coming towards that changing of the guard right now. So Thiago Silva I'd have on the bench for that one, and I would have Disasi and Colwill in there. Obviously, look, really good to see Ben Chilwell back at left back, but he did go down with an injury, and now it looks like he's going to miss it. So I'm really, really fearful. I've got a horrible feeling in my stomach that Mauricio Pochettino is going to stick Levi Colwill back in that left back position. So obviously, look, this is a personal message for you, Poch. I know you're a big watcher of the channel. You're always in my comments, in my inbox. You won't leave me alone. You need to calm down with all that. But yeah, don't start Levi Colwill there. Please, please, please don't do it. I know that I've said that I think Ian Maatsen might be slightly better further up the field, but I'd give him a run out there. He was very impressive for Burnley last season. He's very creative, and I do believe that Mudryk will get another start, so he could complement Mudryk really, really well. And it'd be good to see them two, you know, with Maatsen directly behind Mykhailo Mudryk. So yeah, that's another one. Moises Caicedo. Now, this boy looks like he's getting more comfortable in this side, game by game, and I'm not saying he's lived up to the price tag just yet, but I do think he's going to. I think he's one that can be with us for the best part start of a decade. If we can keep hold of him and he keeps consistently playing well, he's going to get better and better. I think his confidence is growing. And last night against his former club, he looked bang up for it, didn't he? He linked up good with Ugachukwu, a player that I was calling to have more starts. And obviously Ugachukwu didn't put in his best performance last night, but he looked good in there with Moises Caicedo. Caicedo needs to stay in that role, keep getting the minutes, keep getting these games, and just keep progressing, because last night he looked really good. And a little stat that shows that he is more than just your typical central defensive midfield player is that he actually created 3 big chances, which is the most out of any Chelsea player and the most out of any Brighton player. So really solid one for Moises Caicedo last night. Now, I've said that Ugachukwu is a little bit raw, and that's definitely a word that I would use to describe both Mudryk and Jackson, who both showed really, really positive moments last night. Obviously, the standout being Jackson. He got on the goal sheet a couple of times, and obviously, I don't want to call it a voodoo, but I'm hoping that this little curse we've seen of recent with him missing big chances, hopefully that's something he can now put behind him. And as I say, it's a real shame, man, that he's not in against Fulham. He needs to learn to leave it out with all the dissent to the refs and stuff like that, because it's not going to get you anywhere. And obviously, once you've got a reputation for it, which now he's got a growing reputation for talking back to the refs and whatever, because he has served that ban for it, or will be serving that ban for it, they're going to be on him. They're going to be hot on him. So he needs to make sure that he just keeps his mouth shut. Even last night, there was a point when he was sort of rolling about on the floor for a while because he thought he should have been given a penalty. Again, with no VAR, you never know, but you just got to get up and crack on, because they're not going to go back after a minute and go, yeah, all right, you'll have a penalty because you're still on the floor. So, but I don't want to sound like I'm going hard on Jackson. Really, really impressed by him last night. Mudryk, again, I can see why the ceiling is so high for Mudryk. His pace is blistering, and he's really, really good at getting in behind players and stuff like that. But he needs a lot of moulding, doesn't he? He needs a lot of work on the training ground from Mauricio Pochettino and the background staff at Chelsea to be able to mould him into the sort of player that I believe he could be. If he was under a Pep or someone like that, I think he might have one little bit of a ropey season, a little bit like Grealish did, and then all of a sudden he becomes a world beater. And I do very much think that Mudryk's ceiling is so high. And obviously there's a video that I made that's getting a bit of traction on Mudryk at the minute, where I was sort of asking the question of, did we overpay for him, and is he going to come good? And I think that people are watching that video and taking the wrong thing from it and thinking that I'm saying that Mudryk's not going to come good and I'm really criticising his performances. I'm actually just asking the question in that video. I would love nothing more than Mudryk, Cucurella, or anyone else we've bought to come good and perform to the best of their ability for Chelsea. So let me just put that out there. But I want to finish off talking about the individual performances by talking about the man of the match, the man who ran the show last night, and that is Cole Palmer. Everything good that Chelsea did last night ran through Cole Palmer. 92% pass accuracy, 41 touches, 23 out of 25 passes completed. And obviously when you look at Cole Palmer, he's not Thiago Silva playing at centre-back, where a lot of the passes are just going to be maybe to the defensive midfielder or to his partner at centre-back. Cole Palmer's passes, for the most part, are creative ones. They're probably cutting through the lines. So to attempt 25 and make 23 of those successful, it's a really, really impressive stat. Obviously, 1 key pass, 1 shot on target, 1 assist. He was unreal last night. Now, this boy's distribution, vision, weight of pass, judgment in tight spaces is already elite. And for anyone it wasn't already massively clear to, Chelsea need Cole Palmer in that starting lineup going forward. The setup now has got to be Caicedo alongside Enzo out of that 10, back deeper, where his creativity will still come to fruition just as much as it would in that 10, if not more so, and Cole Palmer in the number 10 going forward. And we've all spoken, including myself and Josh on this channel, about the reliance that we've got in Nkunku coming back and how he can free up other players and give us that creativity. But the answer's under our nose. It's Cole Palmer. Every single time he's come on off the bench, he's been probably our best and most creative player on the pitch. And last night, given a starting berth, he showed exactly why that is. This kid is so classy. He's exactly what we're crying out for. The way he takes the ball in tight spaces, like he did last night, right? He took the ball in a really tight space. Most players wouldn't have the confidence to even do anything with it or turn. He turns. Perfect way to pass to Nicholas Jackson, who scored a really classy goal. And Cole Palmer, as I say, was everything good that we did last night. And that little snippet you see of him with the assist for Nicholas Jackson, he'll do that week in, week out if we get him in that lineup. I promise you that. And I've already said that I had a little bit of a problem with some of the lineups and some of the tactics used by Mauricio Pochettino so far this season. But again, I've always countered that by saying, what do I know that Poch doesn't? You know, Poch has forgot more today about football than I even know. But what I would say is, as much as, you know, I don't think that maybe Enzo should be playing centre attacking midfield. I don't think that Levi Colwell should be at left back. And, you know, I think that Chilwell should be there. I can take all them things with a pinch of salt and go, okay, look, you know more than me. And, you know, Pochettino's the man for the job. I am not going to tell him how to do his job. However, if Cole Palmer is not in that starting lineup now against Fulham on Monday night, I am going to have to seriously start doubting his judgment, you know. It ain't good to hang your hopes on a young player, especially one with a lack of experience, but my hopes are well and truly hung. Cole Palmer could be the man that would drag us out of this sort of miserable situation we've been in over the past few weeks. And look, I'm not waxing lyrical about Chelsea and saying it was an unreal performance, you know. In fact, the 2 wins that I've seen, both matches that I was in attendance for in Luton and Brighton, probably weren't even our better performances. You know, I actually think that against West Ham, despite the score, we weren't that bad. And against Liverpool, that was probably our best performance. And when you look at how well Liverpool are now doing, that's surely got to fill you with a lot of confidence. But even, you know, Brighton, they're a good side, man. They've took 15 points out of their first 18 points available to them, including matches against the likes of Newcastle and Man United, who they got wins against. And obviously, they've rotated slightly, but let's have it right. There was still a good 11 from Brighton out last night. You look at the front four, you know, the attacking flair they had in that lineup. And this is a Brighton side that would love to go on and win this cup. I refuse to believe that anyone in this cup does not want to go on and win it. I know I would love to. So if it's good enough for Chelsea, it's definitely good enough for Brighton. And also, we've got to remember, there's bad blood in this game now, isn't there? Roberto De Zerbi hates us. We've been taking all his players. And yeah, you know, this is a Brighton side that would have been bang up for it and were bang up for it last night. And we managed to get a win over them and put in a really good performance. So we've got to keep this going, keep the good feeling around the club now and let it fill us with optimism going forward into the match against Fulham. And also, when we just touch on the cup, yeah, this cup is so important because a trip to Wembley could do absolute wonders for these lot's confidence. And I truly believe that we could get there now, you know. We've got Blackburn in the next round. I'm not disregarding Blackburn, but you've got to make us favourites in that. Man City have now gone out to Newcastle. Newcastle play Man United in the next round, which means one of those two are going to go out. So this is a cup that we can go on and at least get to a final in if we can perform to the level that I know we can. So, look, we got Fulham now, then Burnley next, before obviously that really tough run of fixtures. But if we can now get used to winning games and against the likes of Fulham and Burnley, if it's pretty ugly, set in between, I don't care. If we can get the 3 points over the line, we can go into those games with a lot more momentum, a lot more belief and a whole lot less pressure on us than if we were going into them off the back of losses and shit performances. So anyway, I want to cap it off by shouting out Jet Set Hospitality, because obviously they put me up last night. We was in the Westview Upper, obviously really nice facilities and all that, and they obviously sorted me out the tickets. So Jet Set Hospitality, I posted them on my story before, and a lot of people have said to me, oh, these guys legit, and can I book for them? I can vouch for them. I've used them twice now, and the service is unreal. Amir will sort you out. Tell him I sent you. If you want premium VIP experiences, all that sort of stuff, check them out on Instagram. I'm going to link them in the description. So the link to their Instagram, maybe their WhatsApp, I'll see whatever I've got. I'll link it in the description. Give Amir a shout at Jet Set Hospitalities. He'll sort you out. And obviously, people who got to the end of the video, please do me a massive favour. Subscribe if you're not already. If you're watching my content and you're relying on YouTube recommendations to bring it up, you need to understand that I really need your help by you subscribing. So please hit the subscribe button and let me know in the comments your thoughts on last night's game. Am I too high on it? Are you critical of Chelsea? Or do you think that, like I say, this can be the catalyst to propel us on to shoot up that league table and to good things hopefully this season? So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading them all when they drop. I'll try and get back to as many of you as I possibly can, and I will see you all in the next one.